the Zoom meeting for 2020. Hopefully 21 is going to be a better year. I'm going to kill my dog. We plan on continuing these meetings monthly. We'd like more input from people that are on the call and members. So let us know what you want to hear and what you want to talk about. Sometimes we struggle to come up with topics that are relevant. And sometimes relevant topics don't come up until a couple weeks before the meeting. I mean, things change so rapidly with things that are happening with the city and everything else. Stuff changes. So please, any input is going to be greatly appreciated. Today's topic is going to be navigating our cash crunch, surviving the pandemic, looking at what options we're going to have going into the future, what we think is going to open up, what we've done to cut expenses. We'll have a point when everybody can give their input as far as what they've done or what they think they might want to do. But the thought is to maybe come away from this meeting with one idea that is going to be beneficial for us down the road, that'll help us recover. So your ideas are important. We have two speakers today. Kathy, who else is speaking?
It's going to be Sarah Mercer. It's going to be Sarah Mercer of NLA.
Okay.
But if you could introduce the new board of directors, and then I'll introduce the speakers.
That's fine. So Kathy's going to be presenting what she's done with Windy, and ILA or NLA has suggestions for what they recommend that we do. And between everyone, I should be able to get something out of it. I need to kill my dog. We have a new board of directors. Kaya Armageddon, Flash Limo, and Bus joined our board. Happy to have you on board, Kaya. Beth Cox, Cox Livery, come here, Louie. Paula, everybody knows Paula, Chicago Coach Works. She's our secretary, executive director. Scott Delheimer with Class Act Limousine. Lynn Caffis with Galaxy Limo is new to our board. Michael McDaniels is new to our board. He's with Shriver Insurance. Chris is a lower board and a very valued member. He's done a lot to help the association and bring us along. Tracy was our vice president, or was our president. She's now vice president, and everybody knows how valuable she is. And Brian Sheely. Brian is with Epic Limo, and he's currently our treasurer. I've been elected as president in our last election, and although I probably don't deserve it, I think that everything was running great with Paula and Tracy, and they really didn't need me to step into the position. But I'm honored to be president, and I'll do everything to make the association grow and work for everyone. And I'm probably going to walk away from my camera, and if you hear a dog barking, don't call DCFS.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right, so for us to get started, I will go ahead and introduce our speakers. Our first speaker, as Art had stated, is Kathy Kahne. And Kathy Kahne is co-founder and president of Windy City Limousine and Bus Worldwide. And she'll lead us in today's discussion of navigating the cash crunch, survival strategies to implement now. The foundation of Kathy Kahne's industry success is her utter commitment to customer service. Travelers who ride with Windy City are treated with the utmost respect and care, and account managers know they can entrust their passengers with no concerns. Under Kathy's leadership, Windy City has grown tremendously, and before COVID was the 6th largest company in the industry. After Kathy is finished, then we will have Sarah Mercer of the National Limousine Association. And Sarah's going to be sharing information regarding the affinity program that is offered by the NLA. And it's just another, it kind of segues into Kathy's presentation of reducing expenses. The affinity program of the NLA is another great way to save money on products and services instantly. So if you're looking to save money going into 2021, you might want to take a look at that. Sarah currently serves as the Associate Executive Director for the National Limousine Association, and she has been with the NLA for 5 years and started out as membership coordinator. Sarah is currently working towards her certified meeting planner and certified association executive certifications at this time. And she will be on the call right about 10:30. So I think that'll be perfect timing once Kathy concludes, and then Sarah will be on to talk about the affinity program. So at this time, I will turn it over to Miss Kathy Kahne.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all doing well. I did a bit of this presentation with the virtual CD NLA show, so it's just bits and pieces of that. Paula and Tracy asked me to do it for the ILLBA, so I am honored and more than happy to do that. I'm not going to go through the whole history with Windy City and the whole history with the pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. I will tell you that we moved quick. Everyone knows that the pandemic sort of kind of hit us right around St. Patrick's Day. I was out of the state when all hell broke loose. I got on a plane, got home, and very, very, very quickly, within less than 24 hours, we had laid off over 70% of our staff. And not that we had any great insight, but I had been talking with a lot of my friends on the East Coast, and typically when things start, they start out on the East Coast and then, head across the country, and they were feeling it, and they were feeling it quick. And we could absolutely see that our numbers were just diving. Within, 2 days, I'm going to say our board was clear. We had probably had 90% cancellations within 2 days. So we felt we really did need to move quick. So what did we do? We very, very, very quickly pulled out our P&L and started looking at things. So my number one takeaway would be, if you haven't done so already, and we continue to do it, this isn't something that we just did one and done. Every single week, we go through the same exact exercise just to make sure that we haven't missed anything. But look at your expenses. And it really came down to needs versus wants. And there's a fine line there. Like, you really think that you need something? Yeah, you probably really don't. What does it take to run the business? And there were a lot of management discussions that went into it, and a lot of departments saying, nope, I have to have that. Nope, I have to have this person. And when you really got down to it and said, why do you need this? Can't we do it this way, that way, or the other way? The answer usually was yes. And it was the quickest way for us to put on a board, must have, kind of want to have, this is ridiculous, we don't need it. And it got down as far as, we discontinued water service for the office. We discontinued coffee service for the office. Those are wants, they're not needs. You bring in your own water. You can bring in a bottle of water from home every day. You can stop and get coffee or bring in a thermos every day. That was something nice that the company did, but it certainly wasn't a need. Again, we went through our P&L line item by line item by line item and broke it down to memberships with associations, sponsorships, uniforms for our shop, cleaning products that we used in vehicles. Obviously, that all changed once COVID really kicked into gear and we had to switch up what we did. But honest to God, we went through every single penny that we spend, down to pencils, paper, copiers, you name it, we went through it. And I strongly, strongly, strongly suggest, if you haven't done it, do it. Go through your P&L and continue to go through it. Look at every single bill that comes in. Anything that you're on auto pay, get off of auto pay immediately. Cease those credit cards. Do not let people just charge your cards, because they're going to do it. And there were a few out there that we completely forgot that we were on auto pay with. And all of a sudden you'd get hit with, in our case, it would be $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 bill. And we couldn't figure out how. Well, someone forgot to turn that one off. And smaller organizations, usually the gatekeeper is one person. Just make sure that that gatekeeper understands what's on auto pay, and do not pay them. Shut it off immediately. We had a couple people that are the gatekeepers depending on their department, and it just slipped through the cracks. We were moving so fast and trying to shut so much down that things absolutely positively got left to the wayside. Like I said, we continue to look at our P&L every single week. And it has proven to be very, very beneficial for us. The other thing that we didn't do, but we quickly started doing, and I will tell you moving forward as a company, we will never be without this, is we started doing a cash flow projection. In the beginning of the time when we started Windy City, we did that just because I think most companies do. You need to know what's coming and what's going and what you're going to pay and how you're going to pay it. As life went on and we became a little bit more successful, we probably didn't watch cash flow as closely as we should have been. And now we watch it very, very closely. We are on a rolling 13 to constantly be watching what's coming in and what's going out. And we make decisions on what gets paid and what doesn't get paid depending on what's coming in. So again, cash flow model is critical. I think it's critical. It's helped us, again, determine needs and wants, what has to get paid, what maybe we can push back a little bit, and what we can really push back. Obviously, like everyone else, we mothballed vehicles very, very quickly. The insurance companies have been, I think, in our industry, one of our best partners, regardless of who your vendor is for insurance. I think collectively, they've all done an incredible job in trying to protect themselves and also trying to protect us. Obviously, everyone's got a different deal with their insurance company. In our case, we were able to sit the majority of our vehicles, and as we needed to add them on, they've allowed us to add them on one at a time. In the beginning, they were allowing us to add them and take them back off again. They are no longer allowing us to do that. Now, once we put a vehicle on, it has to stay on. So again, it's a hard choice, right? Business is there, but is business there 7 days a week? Is business there 5 days a week for that particular vehicle? So then we have to make the decision, do we put the vehicle back on the insurance, hoping that that vehicle is going to keep moving, or do we try to farm it out? And right now, as most people know, farming out isn't as easy as it was pre-pandemic. Everyone's kind of in the same boat where you're determining how many vehicles you're going to put on your fleet, what vehicles you're going to put on, and what vehicles are going to be the most profitable. In our case, we really made the decision not having a roadmap, not having a crystal ball, not having any idea of what the hell we were doing when this pandemic hit. But we thought it made sense to keep our bigger vehicles insured and uninsure our smaller vehicles. And so we primarily insured our motor coaches and our 39 passenger mini coaches and a small amount of sedans and SUVs. And we also did limousines, and we did limousines primarily for the social distancing. We thought that there was a good barrier between the chauffeur and the passengers, and that maybe that would hold up for us. In hindsight, it was the right decision. Every now and then you make a good decision, and that was a good decision. We made some bad decisions along the way, but that was a really good decision to put our bigger vehicles out there. It proved to be beneficial for us, and really those were the vehicles that our customers were asking for. So that saved us. There's no ifs, ands, or maybes that the bigger vehicles has saved us and allowed us to continue moving forward. The other most important, and we just went through a giant exercise with our banks, have a bank relationship. Good, bad, or indifferent. Even if you've got a sad story to tell, you've got a terrible story to tell, you can't make your payments, the bank needs to know that. And they're not the enemy, truthfully. They're in it the same thing we are, right? They're for profit. They lent you money, they want their money back. The last thing they want is your fleet. They are not in the business of selling vehicles, and they don't want to be in the business of selling vehicles. They want no part of selling vehicles. They just want to know that they're eventually going to get their money back. And obviously everyone's in a different boat on that. We have 4 different banks that we deal with. We have one that's a primary that holds about 85% of all of our loans. And they're the bank, obviously, that we are the most concerned with because they hold 85% of our loans. We've banked with them since day one. It's Wintrust. They're local bank to us. We went in immediately. I think March 18th, we went in and said, we're going to be in trouble. You need to help us. We are not going to make payments. We'll make interest payments, but you need to defer, defer, defer. And they have. We're on our third round of deferrals with all of our banks. They absolutely have made us do our due diligence. So if your bank is knocking on your door and requiring a whole lot more, you're not alone. They're requiring it from everyone right now. They're going to want to see financials. They're going to want to see your P&Ls. They're going to want to see your cash rates. They're going to want to make sure that there's money in the bank and that there's still money coming in. Some banks are being a little bit harder than others. You know, they're saying, sorry, you need to make some principal payments along with interest payments. Others are still deferring. I'm aware of a few banks that have said, sorry, there is no round 3. You either need to pay or we're going to come get the vehicles. Be honest with the bank and be honest with them with what you've done with every single vendor. Put together chapter and verse, every single vendor and what that vendor has done to try to help us. And you know, everyone's in this together. There's not one vendor. Well, I shouldn't say that. There probably are a few vendors that are sitting pretty because of the pandemic. But the vendors that we deal with, the majority, other than the cleaning supply companies, are not sitting pretty either. You know, they're in our industry. So they're hurting as badly as we are. And not only, you know, in the case of our banks, it's not just us they're worried about. They've got other loans out there that those businesses are doing worse than our businesses are doing. Our bank heavily is in with restaurants. What a crappy industry to be in as well.
Yeah.
So the banks are not only worried about you, but they're worried about all their other assets. And which one is the riskiest one is what they're worried about. You may think you're the riskiest one, but when you get right down and talk to them, you may not be. You may be in the middle of the road for them. And it's not a matter for us in our industry if it's coming back, it's when it's coming back. Is it going to look different? Of course it's going to look different. Is it going to come back slower? I think for Illinois, because of our wonderful governor, I do think it's going to come back slower. But it eventually is going to get there. For the first time ever, and I was dying laughing yesterday at Pritzker, he's like, yep, we're turning the corner. I can see light at the end of the tunnel. Of course you can, because there's a vaccine out there now that's going to save the world. So I do think things will start loosening up and business will come back. People are dying to travel. I mean, I'm not, Tracy knows this. I've been traveling now, like I travel. I'm not afraid to travel. I'm not afraid to get on a plane. I'm not afraid to leave the country. Planes are full, guys. People are traveling again and they're doing it and they're happily doing it with smiles on their face. So people are dying to get back to normal. So I really do believe that things are going to come back. But you have to talk to the banks and you have to cooperate with the banks. If they're asking for things, don't get nervous thinking they're going to seize your assets. They're not. They just need to know what they're up against. So if you haven't done that, do it. Contact the bank immediately. Same thing with vendor relationships. You know, we moved everything around really, really quickly. And again, we divided and conquered within our company. And if you don't have the manpower to divide and conquer, you can do this yourself. You know what your P&L is. You know where your vendors are. Pick up the phone, call them, and tell them this is what you can do, and this is all you can do. And if they can help you, if they can get you out of a contract, if they can allow you to defer, if they can, cut your bill in half, allow you to renegotiate the contract, whatever it is that you need to do, do it. And don't be proud. There's no proud right now. Like there is no shame in what we're going through. Not one of us did anything wrong. Not a one of us. But you need to survive and you need to be there on the back end. And when that happens, you're going to take good care of those vendors in the long run. You're never going to leave them because they took good care of you. We moved from Verizon to T-Mobile immediately. We knew that we could have an immediate savings, and we're saving about $4,000 a month by moving vendors on our phone. That was a giant one. Our rent, we went back to our landlord and said, sorry, this is all we can afford to pay right now. And it was a battle, no ifs, ands, or maybes. And we didn't say this is all we can afford to pay and we will make it up to you in the long run. This is all we can afford to pay. And when we can resume paying our regular rent, we'll be more than happy to do so. And again, it took a couple months, but they agreed to it. Your zip whip vendors, we have uniforms for the shop. Is it a nice to have? It is. Do we need it? We went back and forth. Do we wash their vehicle, their uniforms here? I'm not in the laundry business. Like, that is not what I want to be doing. I do not want people doing laundry all day long. I can just hear what would, we couldn't get to this because we were too busy folding clothes. That wasn't what I wanted to have happen. So we chose to continue with Cintas for the shop uniforms. And they are a pain. They are not a nice vendor. That one I will say. We are in the process of changing our livery system. We were on Hudson. We are moving to Santa Cruz. We're like dead center in the process right now of building and moving over. Was it the right time to spend money in the middle of a pandemic to move software systems? Maybe, maybe not. I think in the long run, it's the smartest thing that we could have done. In the long run, it's going to be a cheaper option for us on a monthly basis. And I truly believe with their technology, we are not going to have to bring people back, or not as many people back. Even once we get back up to full throttle, I think that their system will help us tremendously. We ended sponsorships. We canceled cable in the office, water, coffee, changed our internet providers. Anything that we could do to save money, we have done it. And again, we continue to look at it. All of a sudden we'll be in a meeting and I'll be like, oh my God, did we forget about that vendor? And did we shut this off? Because it may only be a one-time, once a year it renews and you forget it renews. So we really, it's critical to continue to go through your P&Ls and understand your spending. And even if you've negotiated, try to renegotiate again, right? When this all happened, truthfully, with all of my heart and soul, I thought by September, we'd be back to normal. I did. In March, if you'd have told me we wouldn't be back by September, I would have said you were kidding yourselves. So again, you need to continually be looking at it and going back. Just because you've done it one time doesn't mean that's enough. Go back to the vendors again if you need to, and don't be afraid to do so. I will tell you, Samsara was our worst vendor by far. They would not cooperate. They would not work with us. We had two vendors, actually, our IT vendor, and we outsource a lot of our IT, and Samsara. If I have learned nothing else during this whole entire catastrophe, it was, I will never, ever, ever, ever sign a contract that is a third-party contract. And what I mean by that, with Samsara, we signed a 5-year agreement with Samsara. I am not a big fan of long-term agreements. I'm not, for many reasons, and I'm less so now. I will never sign a 5-year agreement again. And yes, you will pay more to sign a shorter agreement, but never did I think there would be a pandemic either. And every time we went up against them, the first words out of their mouth is, well, you're under contract. Well, yeah, I know I'm under contract, and never in a million years did I think there would be a pandemic, nor did you. And so instead of holding your ground and digging your heels in the sand, maybe you should help us so that we're all here in the long run. Samsara sold our financing end for the gateways to Dell. So Samsara had already been paid by Dell. So now Dell is sitting, I'm writing a big fat check every month to Dell and can no longer write that big fat check, and I need help. And they're saying, we would love to help you. However, we've already paid Samsara. Samsara is saying, you're under contract and there's nothing we can really do. You need to work with Dell. Well, no, you two need to work together and figure this out. We have finally come to an agreement with them that we've got to work out. I'm happy with where we're at with it, but literally it took from March to December 1st to get that to happen. It was nonstop every single week, picking up the phone, calling, screaming, telling them they had to work with us. So don't give up. If you've got a vendor that just will not cooperate, pick up the phone every single week. Just haunt them until you cannot haunt them anymore. I'd be like, that's okay, I can stay on the phone. Truthfully, I've got nothing else to do. Wasn't lying. Had nothing else to do. So I could sit on the phone with them for an hour and just wait and wait and wait. So again, in the case of Windy City, we will never sign a third-party contract ever again. The edict has been put out to the entire company, that those that are left. If you're going, no third-party contracts whatsoever, we'll figure it out. We'll find a different vendor. I'll pay more. I'll do whatever I need to do, but we are not signing third-party contracts. And I have been brutally honest with our vendors as well, that if that's how they continue to operate, we will not be a customer of theirs. We just can't. I will never accept you are under contract again after this. You know, that's pretty much our story. You know, that what we learned out of this, I learned a couple things as a leader of as a company. I've learned a couple things. Like I've already said, no third-party contracts ever again. I think we acted quickly. I think we acted as quickly as we could. I probably should have acted. We did 2 rounds of layoffs. I probably should have done 1 in one fell swoop and been done with it. But we were unsure. We didn't know how long this was going to last. You know, we have people that have been with us since day one, and you certainly hate to upset them and upset their families. And, you know, we were thinking that it would come back and that we had enough cash that we could hold on. And, you know, we should have cut quicker. I maybe should have kept rank and file instead of some of the managers. And it's, you know, again, it's all hindsight. Rank and file conforms really quickly and can change really quickly. Managers, when you haven't done the day-to-day and now all of a sudden you have to do the day-to-day, it's tough. And it was a tough changeover. And now they're really not managing anyone. They are the rank and file now. So that was a tough move. And in some cases I got pushback. In other cases, people just did what needed to be done. Their jobs are not the same any longer. The jobs that they were hired for are not the jobs that they're doing today. And I don't think they ever will be the jobs that they were originally hired for. We will run leaner. We will never have a staff the size that we had. We found out that we can do without a whole lot. And pre-pandemic, if you would have said that, I'd said absolutely not. There's no way we can run this company any leaner than we're running it. Yes, we can. And even if we went back to full throttle to where we were, we could run it with 50% of what we were running it. Just having the right people in place and not accepting laziness and not accepting complacency. And you know, again, pre-pandemic, it was hard to hire people. It was hard to hire quality people because it was such a, you know, a great market. That's not going to be the case when we get back to full throttle. There will be competent people out there that are willing to work and willing to do a job the way it needs to be done. So that's my takeaway.
Kathy, I've got a couple of questions if you could answer before we open it up to Q&A for everybody.
Sure.
How often do you talk to the bank? So in the last 9 months, what has been your pattern in communicating with the bank and your vendors?
So the banks, so we had a good due diligence with our bank, right? And they wanted us to put together with a consultant, our burn rate, our 52-week projection. So imagine right now having to project out 52 weeks, what your cash flow looks like, what your customer base is going to look like, and how things are going to pan out. During that exercise, I talked to the bank every single day. So that was 29 days of nonstop talking to the bank. And some calls were 5 minutes and some calls were an hour. It just depended on what we needed to do and where we needed to be at. Now we're probably down to once, sometimes twice a week. And it's more of just touching base. This is where we're at. This is what's going on. You know, this is what this month looks like. This customer, you know, that we thought we were going to get just fell through. However, we got a new customer, just trying to fill them in on what's going on in the life of Windy City. I will tell you the one thing that the bank, I'm sorry, I keep digressing. One thing that the bank did look at and was happy about, we have a very diverse customer base, which helped us. Had we had all of our eggs in one basket, I don't think that the banks would be really happy with us right now, or even our eggs in 2 baskets. I don't think they'd be real thrilled with us right now. But because we had such a diverse customer base and they could see that, and they were happy with some of who our customers were, that they know that their business will come back, that I think that they gave them a peace of mind as well. So if they ask you for your customers, give them your customers. They're not looking to sell them. They're not looking to tell, you know, anyone who your customer base is. They just want to make sure it's a solid customer base.
If you could go back to vendor contracts, so I think T-Mobile and Verizon, I think that's a really good example. So when you negotiated the contract with T-Mobile, you negotiated for hundreds of devices, because of the size of that Windy City was at the time. So now going back to vendors that have a contract and now you're renegotiating them, but you're renegotiating to the size you are today. What did some of those conversations look like?
Oh, they were awful. And again, we've gone back probably twice to each vendor since this whole thing started. So in the beginning, I was just asking for deferment because again, no one knew what the hell was going on. And even we're all talking to each other and we're on Zoom calls and we're on association calls, which are your best friends right now. And don't let them not be your best friends. Association calls, the NLA, the ILLBA, just Zoom calls in general with the industry. I picked up something every single time that I'm on a call. And it just, A, it makes you feel like you're not alone. B, you learn something. And it just, it brings community back together again. I think they're just really important. I think they're important mentally. I think they're important. So when we went back, we just said, we thought we needed, T-Mobile is the best example. So when we started with T-Mobile, we had over 500 devices between our iPads, our phones, Wi-Fi units, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're down to 200 maybe now. But we just had to keep going back saying, sorry, we thought this was going to come back. It's not going to come back. You need to take these units off. Sorry, you're going to come back. You need to take these units off. And obviously your contract, in our case, it was based on volume. Well, our volume isn't what it was. So that was the next conversation that we had to have and I want my same pricing on the lesser units. They will do it. You just need to be diligent and persistent and they will do it, or they won't. But those that want to do exactly what I was asking for, they would come back with something that was a little bit more reasonable. I will tell you from a negotiating standpoint, don't go in with what you want, go in lower, knowing what you're going to get. Every time we went in, I would, lowball it, just hoping, you never know, you might get lucky on that. But knowing where my threshold was and what I needed to make this all work. So if you've already asked for deferment once, go back again. If you've already renegotiated and you don't see it coming back, go back again. And be honest with your vendors. Anyone that's in the Midwest, business sucks in January, February. It just does. Who the hell even wants to be here in January and February? And they understand that, and just tell them, look, I'm, if you can tell, I'm not a fan of Pritzker. And I've been honest with our vendors too, saying, look at this guy, like, listen to him. He is in the business prevention business. So until he decides that we can have business again in Chicago, we're in trouble. And they all have listened and have followed suit with that.
And my last question before we open it up is outsourcing. If you could speak a little bit about outsourcing and what that could mean going forward.
Absolutely. So again, we looked at, we save money. We're down to 33 people in our office. We started at 110. That is not counting chauffeurs. That was just office staff. So what do we do? Where do we go? What do we do? How do we make people do things that they have never done before? How do we all of a sudden make someone that's only been in charge of reservations now in charge of groups and IT? How do we do that? How to, wave a magic wand? In some cases, we couldn't. You just can't change someone's entire skill set if they don't have that skill set to begin with. Then the second thing was, where can we save money? I'm paying X amount of dollars to have someone do this function, where if I outsource it, I'm probably going to cut that in half and still get the same things done that I need to get done. So the areas for us that made the most sense were IT. It's a really easy area to outsource. And we didn't outsource everything, but we outsourced, I'm going to say 80% of it. Our whole entire back office has been outsourced. The only thing that's still done internally right now is Hudson. And once we go on Santa Cruz, that'll change a whole lot because there's so much more support with Santa Cruz and our voice over IP. We do a lot of that in-house as well. But really, I don't need a giant salary to do all that. We're going to keep that salary, but we've been able to divert with that individual and make him do a whole lot more than just IT. The other area is accounting. It doesn't matter if you're an accountant, you're an accountant, you're an accountant, and there's no magic sauce for what we do every day. As long as someone understands QuickBooks or whatever, program that you're using, and they understand the basic accounting principles, you can outsource accounting. Simple. It's the simplest thing to outsource and get it off your plate and get someone tabled. And the other that I think is a really easy one in our industry, at least, is HR. Again, HR is HR is HR. If you understand HR principles, you can easily outsource that. And we have talked with other companies in our industry. I'm in a 20 group and a nice 20 group. And we've talked about combining sources or resources on some of those areas and doing a shared resource. Again, those types of functions in your company easily outsourced.
And that conversation about sharing resources can happen no matter what size your company is, because we've had a few conversations with smaller operators about, sharing drivers or, sharing phones and things like that. So it definitely applies.
It does. It applies with small companies, big companies, trust. And as long as you've got that trust factor, it can work, and it can work very, very well. I mean, it can work really, really, really well. And especially those that are on the same systems and things, imagine being able to do all of your overnight dispatch, 10 companies doing overnight dispatch with one person. Imagine the cost savings on that. Or one company managing, the phones. That's their main goal in life, is just to manage the phones. And another company's main goal in life is just to dispatch them. Imagine the resources and the savings that you would have. It's incredible. So again, in our 20 group, we are seriously going to combine some resources, and we're across the country. It's not everyone just in the Midwest. We are across the country. I think that is going to be the way of the future, guys. From everything that we are hearing, that is going to be the way of the future, is to consolidate and trust one another. If we've learned nothing from this, we need each other. Every time we would go to a vendor and preach to them, we would say, you're going to hear from other people in our industry. We are a unique industry in that we cannot survive without each other. We can't. We need each other to be able to survive.
Excellent. Great points, Kathy, and thank you for that. So at this time, we'll open it up. So if anyone has questions for Kathy, now's the time to ask them before we move on to Sarah. I think you covered it so well. We don't have any questions.
Good deal. My pleasure.
I mean,
all right.
Then every time I did, Kathy said it. So I was like, okay, Kathy said that one. But one last thing, even if you are a smaller operator, it doesn't take much to check your bank statements. And, every month we're going through our P&L, but we're also going through our balance sheet and our checking. And I still find subscriptions that we have because they're coming due. And it's like, oh, surprise, so even if you think, well, I'm just a small guy, what does that mean to me? Well, yeah, you know what? You may have signed up for a magazine, or you joined some kind of an association, you're not doing anything with them, or what have you. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of, every month I find at least one thing that I can either modify or shut off. So it's definitely, there's some, for 10 minutes of looking at my accounts, it's well worth it.
Agree.
Yeah, is there anything that anyone else has done on this same subject that may be beneficial to other people on the call?
All I can say is, when you have grant opportunities pop up, make sure that you apply for the grants. I actually walked out to my mailbox this morning and was surprised to see a $10,000 check from a grant in my mailbox.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
So,
That's fantastic.
you know, apply for the grants. You don't think you're going to get them. Trust me. Some of these, I mean, this grant was from my county. They thought they were going to be bombarded with applications within the first day. They had 1,300 to give away, and within the first week, they had only received 300 applications.
Wow.
Nice.
So apply for the grants. There is money that is out there. All in all, I want to say that I have received over $30,000 in grants. Some of them have some pretty strict reporting. Some of them do not. But, you know, I will gladly take, you know, a $10,000 check that I don't have to pay back. I just have to do a little bit of reporting on how it's spent.
I agree.
Yeah.
And anyone else?
It definitely lets your accountant do the happy dance. Well, if you're in Illinois, today is the last day to apply for the BIG grant. So I would encourage you to do that if you haven't already. There are many people getting money.
Something that we've done is anyone that's on unemployment can earn half of their unemployment check without being penalized by the state.
Yes.
So if you're getting $400 a week in unemployment, you can literally earn $200 a week and not lose anything.
Well, that depends on what state you're in, but in Kansas, it's 25%.
Okay. Whatever it is, in any state, what we've done is we've taken advantage of that and took our reservation staff, people that we wanted to hold on to that we couldn't bring back full time, didn't need full time. And we've kind of done that, and it allowed them to earn some extra money above and beyond unemployment. And it allowed us to keep our staff in place so that when things do open up, we're not starting from the beginning, retraining or looking for employees.
And you had people that were willing to do that? Yeah.
We did. Yeah, they're happy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've not been as successful. I think people, you know, they're like, well, I can make the same exact amount staying home. Okay, it's not the
Well,
right
no,
answer.
and they are staying home. They're working from home. But I mean,
Gotcha.
they're basically, you know, there's nobody in the office right now. We're working from home. Everyone's
Okay.
working from home.
Can
we don't really need an office anymore.
Well, I think what he's trying to say is that you can either get $400 on unemployment or $400 plus work a little bit to get up to $200 to potentially make $600 a week.
Yeah.
Correct.
$600, you know, $600. I don't know, you know, how much your people were making, but I mean, $600 a week is $15 an hour, which is fairly decent for a lot of positions.
Yeah.
At least in my neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So.
No,
Well, it helps them and it kind of helps us. It helps
Yeah.
both.
All right, shall we move on to Miss Sarah?
Yes.
Hello.
All right, let's. So Sarah, it's all yours.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you for having me on. I'm happy to represent the NLA and talk about probably one of the easiest, fastest, best ways you can save money by being a member of the NLA, and that's the affinity and discount programs. So just to give some background on how these programs come about, basically we can solicit companies or companies come to us saying that they want to set up some kind of program with a discount or opportunity exclusively for NLA members. They submit a proposal that's reviewed by the membership committee, which I see Kevin Mullane's on. He's one of our membership committee members who reviews all of the programs. And they really take the time to go through and make sure, number one, that the discount being offered is a fair discount and that it's worthwhile for the members and that it's actually something that members are going to use. We have turned down programs in the past simply because we don't know that the members would utilize them or find benefit from them. We also look to see if there's a rebate that is offered to the NLA, which is also a way that members can then in turn support the NLA by using these programs. If the committee feels it's a good fit for the membership, it'll go to the NLA board for approval. And, you know, they review it as well, talk to the membership committee co-chairs, ask any questions. And if the program is approved, we roll it out to the membership. This year alone, I believe we've approved 5 or 6 new programs. So it's constantly changing, and it covers every aspect of the industry. We have programs on everything from background checks, credit card processing, marketing materials, social media. I saw Levi on earlier from Curtis Gabriel. We just started a new program with them. And they have a varying kind of discounts that are offered. Some of them depend on what your needs are, and some of them are a standing discount across the board. Some of the discounts fluctuate depending on the time of year. For example, the 1-800-Flowers discount changes as we get closer into the holiday season. But the easiest thing to do is to visit limo.org. Under the resources tab on the menu, there's a page that lists out every program that we have. And we highlight a different one each month. We send out dedicated email blasts about them. We feature them in our e-newsletter. So as long as you're paying attention to NLA correspondence, you can find out what the newest programs are, if there's any updates to the existing programs, and find out how easy it is to access some of them. It does require a little work on your end to make sure you're utilizing the best programs for your company. You might not realize how much you can save until you look into one of them. For example, we have a National Purchasing Partners, which is actually a company that brings a lot of different vendor discounts to members. So, you can save with, I know Kathy doesn't use Verizon anymore, but you might be able to save with Verizon. So we have 2 different companies like that, National Purchasing Partners and Business Advantage. And those vendor discounts are constantly changing as well. So it's really up to you to pay attention to what the NLA sends out, but also do the research on your own to see where you can find savings. Utilizing, 1 or 2 of these programs can more than cover the cost of your NLA membership and create, years worth of savings for you. And I think the board approved one just last week that will be rolling out in January. And I know there's another one with Grid Technologies that will be rolling out in January. So, and this will continue, for the next year. We plan to roll out even more programs and make updates to existing programs as well. I think that's it.
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions on the affinity program? Or are there certain vendors that you would like to see in the affinity program that the NLA could look into?
Well, I've been using National Purchasing for our Verizon, and it's decent, and the process was really easy to get the discount. So I think it's 22% for the lines. So the Verizon knew what it was, and they were very helpful in getting it set up. And it's not tons of money, but you know what? It's a couple $100 a year for us, which covers our membership, the part of it. Yeah.
Hey, Tracy, one you might touch on that Sarah didn't, maybe she brought up and I just missed it, and Michael McDaniels might have some input, is alternative claims management. That's really a resource that a lot of people probably are overlooking or maybe not even familiar with. Even after being in the business for, I think, around about 13, 14 years, I didn't know the definition of diminished value. And so that might be, one of those would pay for multiple years of the NLA membership right there.
Yeah, I have to say, Windy City, I think we're going on our 2nd year, Kathy, is that correct?
Yeah, our 2nd year with them. Again, we were, it took them a couple years to sell us on it. Boy, were we foolish. We should have jumped on it long before we did. Again, another resource in the office that we don't need any longer. You think you need people doing things, and people are out there that are a whole lot smarter than us that can get the job done.
And what do you think that we found that we thought those accidents were put away, we filed them away, and what do you think we've collected just in the year of turning over a few accidents?
Oh gosh, well over $20,000, well over, by just turning them over. And it was the diminished value that really did it. Again, we had never heard of it either. We just, okay, life is good. These people that hit us suck. We can't do anything about it. Wrong. You can do something about it.
We had the folks from ACM on our call last month. So if you're interested, it is on our YouTube channel. They did a really good job of explaining everything, and we also have some sheets from them with information on their organization and whatnot. So you can definitely send me a message if you'd like us to send you a copy. But the recording was good. He did a great explanation of the whole program, and he went into, like Kathy, I didn't know about the diminished value either. So I thought that was a great opportunity to pick up more information. And they definitely, right after the last meeting, one of our members actually talked to them. And although they could not help her with her situation, what she told me was they were able to give her some guidance into how to try to recover some of the claim herself. She's got a long-term issue going on with a particular claim. They can help with third-party claims primarily. So
Correct.
it's definitely worth it.
And I believe the statute of limitations for Illinois is 6 years. So
Yes,
any
it is.
accidents that you've had in the last 6 years, they can go back and start researching.
Yep, I pulled out all my claims, which
And I recently sent Brian 130 pages of loss runs from one of my customers. And within maybe 3 hours tops, he already had notes on probably about 8 or 9 claims that they thought would be worth going after. And they could be a small $1,000 claim, but just to get $500 back is $500. And it's no work on your behalf.
Did you say 130 pages for one customer?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That's a lot.
Our industry?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's going back. That's 5 years of loss runs. And this
Gotcha,
guy has
okay.
120 motor coaches.
Wow.
Gotcha.
So
Oh, he's going to love ACM.
Yep.
Yeah. Can you imagine
Wow.
if you bring back a
Make sure he becomes a member of local and national associations, because that will definitely pay for it easily.
Tracy, could you maybe, or Kathy, how long does that process usually take once he finds some damage, something to go after? Is that like a month process, 2-month process? When do you see
Depends.
some money,
You know, it depends on who he's dealing with. Some insurance companies are tougher than others.
right?
But typically I would say like a month. It's typical of what it's been. It's just the technology they use is amazing. Like how they can recreate things, and they just know exactly what to look for to determine fault or not fault. It's incredible.
And they know the verbiage to use, whereas if we're calling and we're not familiar with it, the insurance companies just walk all over us, but they know exactly the verbiage to use
Right.
and to get their way with the insurance companies, and that they do have to pay.
And they know which insurance companies are tougher to deal with than others, and which ones are going to roll over and which ones are just going to require so much more.
Correct. Thank you.
I did step away for a couple of minutes, but was Sarah able to mention anything about GNet?
Just mentioned that we'll be rolling it out in January. They were working on getting the technology. So I didn't delve too much into it just because it's not out yet. But if you want to talk a little bit more about it, since you were involved in those conversations, that would be great.
Yeah, I can definitely bring it up. And I think if Ken is still on the call, I know Ken has a pretty big call going on today that we've coordinated. But as far as reducing expenses and coming back leaner and more efficiently is GNet. So in order for you to, whether it's in the local market or you're sending rides, across the nation to your farm out affiliates, is GNet allows for the capability for you to connect to other systems so that you're not making those 8 phone calls per reservation. And that's if there's no modifications. That's a minimum of 8 phone calls per reservation the day that it happens. The GNet technology takes care of all of that, and you're able to track the status of those rides. Not to mention sending the reservation to the affiliate, receiving the confirmation, receiving the chauffeur's information, receiving the vehicle information. All of that can be done via technology, and and GNet at this point is the only technology that allows that to happen right now. So in regards to the meeting that Ken has today, as we've been working it's been 5-6 years in the making. However, it's been the last 2 months that we've worked really hard on it, that we've got Limo Anywhere, Fast Track, Livery Coach, Hudson. They're all on a call today and just kind of going through the process and working out all the tweaks and finding the pain points of where the pain points are when 2 affiliates want to connect to each other. So if you're on Limo Anywhere and you want to connect to an affiliate that's currently using Livery Coach, They're going through that process today, right from the onboarding. Okay, where are the sticky points at right now so that we can fix them, working together as a tech group, and we can fix them, and so that it's easier for affiliates to onboard with each other and then do the mapping portion of it. So I think it's pretty great that all of those software providers are working together in order to streamline this process so that going forward, as business picks up, we can easily send work to one another without having to hire affiliate people to input all of these reservations and to manage all of the reservations. I think technology will take care of a great portion of that.
Well,
Yeah, I think the role of the affiliate manager is going to change completely once GNet is up and running. I really do. I think that we will find a better use for that individual in our offices if you have one. And Santa Cruz, Santa Cruz was a holdout on GNet. They were not fans of GNet, and they are on board finally to make this work as well. So I think it's going to be great. It's going to be great for the industry.
I was in another group last week. They all roll together because they go to so many darn Zoom calls. But we had a conversation about the connectivity with GNet, and everyone pointed out how the days are having so many conversations, the dispatcher checking on this and that and the other thing will be reduced. I'm already doing it with people on this call, and it's great. They get when they send we send the trip, or we receive a trip from someone. They see all of our information. They see the driver's photo, the phone number, the vehicle, the plate number, the model. They can track the status. They know when it's, I think it's challenging because we all talk a little bit different languages depending on what application we're on. But compared to other industries, it should be an easy conversion to get people to talk the same language and start using some more common terminologies, so that when someone says they're circling, that they really are circling, or because we've already gone through this once already with Limo Anywhere and had to redo our mappings and stuff, but it's going to be well worth it.
I'm glad you brought up the terminology and the language that each one of the software providers use. So that's exactly what we're working on with Limo Anywhere, Livery Coach, Fast Track, Hudson, is the different terminology. When you mention sedan, what does sedan mean? So we are putting a translation table together. We're even doing it worldwide. So we're receiving information from all of the other countries. Like here, a sedan here is, the typical sedans, the Cadillacs, the Lincolns. But whereas in Germany or the UK, they call it a saloon, which I've never heard of. So, I mean, no matter which country you're going to, the same sedan has a different terminology. So we are putting all of those together. And our vision at this point is for NLA to adopt a data exchange standard for terminology, so that all the software providers can be communicating the same language no matter what country or no matter what software that you're on, and that there's a common definition of the terminology that's being used, whether it's for your trip statuses, if you're en route, or if you're on location, or if you're doing an hourly or a transfer. Is it a transfer or is it a point to point? So a lot of that stuff is currently being worked on in the background right now, which is pretty cool.
We just had a simple one the last couple of months because GroundLink shut down, and we moved over to Boston Coach, and there was still vehicle mappings that we had to look at and change. So even within their own organization. So I mean, anything we can do to change the standards a little bit will make it a lot easier, so that it'll again minimize the questions and people will understand that what kind of a vehicle it is and what they'll be getting. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. I prefer the idea that we don't have to touch the reservations. I mean, for me personally, nearly all, with exception of maybe 4 of our affiliates, are on Limo Anywhere. But for those other ones, they're pretty large. And when we get inundated, like the other day, we got 20 reservations from one of them. We had to sit there and put every single one of them in the system. It's a pain in the neck. And we have to double check it and make sure we didn't make a mistake because, did we did we put the wrong date or whatever? I mean, it's all manual intervention. So I think we have to get less manual overall anyway. But it is exciting.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions or anything else to discuss regarding the last 2 speakers, Then we'll move on to, I think next on the agenda is just some updates.
Yep. Thank you, Sarah. That was great.
My pleasure.
Okay, I'm doing my few minutes on what's going on. They'll be very quick. City of Chicago, for those of you in Chicago, just a reminder to continue to use email to renew chauffeur licenses and livery licenses. The process is working. It saves you from standing in line outside if Ogden Avenue gets backed up because they are capping the number of people at 20, I think. So it's too cold to stand outside. Send them your stuff by email. They're doing licenses that way too, and renewals have been going pretty much quicker than they were back in March. If you need instructions or get stuck, you can send an email to the ILA office and we'll help you. Don't forget your tax filings if you didn't do them already. Oh, by the way, there was an issue with regards to the renewal letters that went out for livery. Some people had vehicles for 2015 and they were instructed that they had to remove them from the fleet next year. That is not correct. The city of Chicago will no longer be specifying our livery year, make, or model, or mileage. The only requirement going forward for us to put any livery vehicles on the road for City of Chicago will be passing the state inspections twice a year and the city inspection is scheduled. Okay, so that's always been out there, but I've been pushing them to try to publish it, but they seem to be hesitant, but we'll try to get that to happen. But just so everybody knows, there are no limitations any longer on your vehicle years. Okay.
Yay.
Question?
I was just saying, yay.
Yeah.
I mean, especially since here in 2021, there's going to be people buying 2019 MKTs.
Right. So you already be behind the 8 ball, exactly. I did remind everybody, if you're in Illinois, today's the last day to apply for the BIG grant. If you're still waiting for your grant information, I did post something on our Facebook page. There are phone numbers you can call to see what the status is. And also, we have dues invoicing will be starting up again in January. We have given every opportunity for the whole year of 2020. We're not applying dues. If you paid us for 2020, we will apply that to 2021. More will be coming out probably right after the holiday. So for those of you that are members, and if you're not a member, please see me and get an application or put your name in the text box. We'd be happy to send you an application. I can't talk. And provide more information about the ILLBA. We have local members in Illinois. We have members all over the country as associate members as well. We welcome everyone. Okay. The date for the next coffee meeting is the 12th of January. We're going to really have a focused discussion on all things related to fraud and protecting your information because of cybercrime, things like that. So there'll be a couple of speakers planned for that discussion. I hope you can join us for that. The invites will be going out in a couple of weeks. And if you have any topics, I think Art already said it, and so did Tracy. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover or speakers you'd like to hear, please let any of us know on the board, and we'd be happy to look into it. This is really a meeting for everyone, and we'd love to hear what you have to say and if there's somebody you'd like to hear from. And that's all I have. Ta-da!
All right, does anyone else have anything? It can be about the airports, about vehicles, about chauffeurs, about
Tell me about the airport.
absolutely anything. Now we're just going to open it up to anything and everything. Dan Baxter, you're way too quiet.
I know. Yeah, what's wrong with you, Dan?
I'm here. I got nothing.
Nothing.
I haven't shaved. I haven't taken a shower in a week. No reason to leave
You
the
know
house.
what? That's TMI for us, okay?
Quite honestly, he doesn't have a problem not taking a shower. It's the rest of us
Yeah.
that have a problem not taking
That's
with him not
because he's
taking a
gonna-
shower.
That's because he doesn't have any work. Otherwise, he'd be all dapper and, ready to go.
Right.
It's nice to see that you're not in, in jail or,
Yeah, there you go. Congratulations.
I'm
Oh,
winding down on my COVID.
Is Limo and Bus Compliance, are they members?
Joe? No.
Yeah, Joe and Chris.
No, they're not.
No, I don't think so.
No. But I think
I
we had,
was going to say they've got a new product coming out that will help with some of the HR stuff soon, I do believe.
Mhm. Next week.
Yeah. So
Oh, interesting.
well, it's essentially it's virtual HR and virtual fleet management and stuff like that. That as we're starting to bring people on, and there are companies across the country. I understand not necessarily in Chicago because you've got some fun governors and mayors. There are companies that are bringing people back, and they have found that they're able to significantly reduce some HR expenses by doing it with their HR person, and essentially fractional HR. And I think I was talking to Joe and Chris last night, and they had one company that was spending about $250,000 in HR expense every year, and through them, they're going to reduce it down to about 40 or 50,000.
Wow.
was
So-
that HR specific to DOT requirements or everything?
Yeah, I think it's going to be for everything. I mean, obviously, with them doing the limo and bus compliance stuff, they're going to have that emphasis on chauffeurs and what chauffeurs need and how the applications need to be worded and whatnot. But
Right.
I think it's really for anyone that you employ within your company.
So that's a perfect example of what Kathy was saying as far as outsourcing. Instead of hiring that HR director or that HR person for a sizable salary,
Yeah.
you can go to somebody like Limo and Bus Compliance and for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
I hired an HR consultant to do my HR. She does it on a as needed basis,
Yeah.
and she's familiar with the limo industry. She did my employee manual, which was like 35 pages, of which
Nice.
four were mine, and 30 is the feds and the state
Ah,
that you have to have.
right.
Mhm.
So, but she's, I tried to bring her to the luncheon or whatever, but she was busy that time. But, she was an HR, she headed up HR for a couple different large firms, and she's doing it on a consulting basis now.
So are you paying her on a monthly retainer or is it
No.
as needed, like an hourly per project?
As needed on project.
Okay.
You
No,
know,
that's
like,
nice.
yeah, and she'll come back and say, Scott, hey, $100, I'll write the letter here. Boom, do it. Which saves me,
Materials.
unemployment, everything like that.
Yeah. And there are some other things. I mean, you can outsource some of the HR stuff. I mean, Kathy obviously pointed out that accounting is accounting is accounting is accounting. It's all numbers. They don't
Yeah.
behave in any certain way based on the person. But there are a lot of other companies out there that you can hire at a significantly reduced rate to help you with some stuff. Virtual assistants from VA Sumo or Fiverr, stuff like that, to help you with creating web pages or creating email blasts and stuff like that. And I will say that people that have not sent out any emails to their clients, you need to do something and stay in front of them, because if you're not in front of them, we've seen posts in the limo groups that companies have closed, and if you're not in front of your clients, they're going to assume that you've closed, you didn't make it, because a lot of companies haven't.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I see Susan on from Chauffeur Driven. Susan, I don't know if Rob was on or not. I don't know if you have anything to update us with, anything that Chauffeur Driven is working on, or anything to ask the group. I know we had our benchmarking Zoom the other day, and that maybe this group might have some input possibly. I'll give you a.
I'm curious, I keep hearing a lot about GNET. I'm wondering if other people are looking into it. Anybody, in the association?
You mean, are the associations looking into GNET?
No, anybody on the call?
Oh,
Okay.
Well,
I mean, I know Windy City definitely is, in
Oh,
order to be more
definitely.
efficient and streamline everything and prevent
100%.
mistakes, without a doubt.
We're already using it with those that, you know, with those companies that we can use it with, but we have been, that was one of our sticking points with Santa Cruz is I was not signing a contract until they agreed to make Santa Cruz be a priority for them. And they've agreed. And they've agreed with a monetary penalty if they don't. So it's going to happen.
There's some other issues too that come up that we found is you've got livery delivery, you've got ground span, you've got all these different platforms that you're trying to send information across. And it would really simplify things with Grid being a one platform that you can basically utilize for everything. And we've been using them for a number of years. And what I was trying to do a long time ago, which still may be something beneficial, is create a network of Illinois Limousine and Bus Association members. So that if a member of any association, any one of us, if you need a car at Midway Airport, you can pull up and see what members are available at Midway Airport right now. And from that standpoint, we'd then be able to take that same sub-product, if you can call it that, and make that available to national associations in other cities. So that if the Lange Association, someone in Lange wants to use a car service in Illinois, but they really want somebody that is supporting their local association and the National Limousine Association, they can then look for a supplier that falls into both of those categories and kind of build at the same time, you know, as getting things covered, you're building your local and your national associations.
I don't really have too many updates. I will probably have an update tomorrow on the Vegas show. I'm sure you guys can probably figure out what's going on there, but we do have other things that are probably in the works for the spring. And then of course we are looking forward to the show that's going to happen in Texas in next fall. So fingers crossed.
Where in Texas?
Gaylord, Texan.
Oh, okay.
Alice.
Yep. Yeah, it's beautiful. So we're really excited. First time going
It
to
sounds
Texas.
warmer than here. That's all I care about.
Yeah, and it'll be in October, so it'll definitely be warmer then too.
It's just, Susan, I'm going to give you a recommendation, okay? Make sure you find out if there's a conference for the American Meteorological Society going on, and choose a different city or choose a different time, because I swear the bad weather follows their conferences.
Well, there you go. Keep that in mind. Note to self.
I mean, crap, what was it? I think it was 2006 or 2007 or something like that. They had a conference down in San Antonio, and they were hit by an ice storm.
Oh, geez.
And then they had one in Atlanta, and you know, so many people got diverted because of fog in Atlanta. And then there was one in New Orleans that they had to reschedule because of Katrina. I mean, those guys, if there's an American Meteorological Society conference going on, leave.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
That one. Yeah.
I mean, it is the damnedest thing. And in all my meteorology friends back from school, they all joke about it, but it is the damnedest thing.
Yeah, juju. We don't need that.
You know what? While we have everybody on, if Susan doesn't have anything else, I have a question for everyone.
37.
We've been having a conversation among ourselves about upcoming topics, and next month is set for this meeting. But we were going to bring back some folks to talk about marketing, digital marketing strategies for 21. Is that something people are interested in? I mean, I know we did that a few months ago, but technology's changed a little bit. People's strategies have changed a little bit. You may be looking at things differently as it's picking up, because when we were talking about it a few months ago, we were really focused on, you know, staying in front of your customers. It may very well be that now, you know, going forward after January, you'll be probably looking at a different approach. So I'm curious if people are interested in us bringing some folks back to have a conversation about that. Thoughts?
I have a thought.
What?
Okay. I think that would be a great topic for February. And I think it would be, quite honestly, I think it would be a great topic if there was someone that you could bring in that has, some experience on how to direct, like I said, the virtual assistants and how to give them guidance on what exactly it is that you need in order to create the content. I think that is the biggest struggle for most of us, is that we are so into logistics that we aren't very creative people, and creating content is going to be the biggest challenge. So if we can have someone that will, that can say, give us some guidance on how to, go about finding someone to create the content, I think it would be easy for us to deploy.
Okay.
I love what,
I have it created. Actually, I have a programmer that created it for me. And it is a virtual quoting tool. So basically it runs you through, is that what you're talking about? Runs you through the questions?
No.
and
I'm
brings-
talking about someone that, helps create the emails, helps create the graphics that are in the emails, helps create the graphics that you'll put on, your Facebook ads or your organic Facebook posts.
So he's
stuff
talking
like
about
that.
like using Fiverr or one of those companies to actually, like, let's say you want to have a facelift on your logo. What's people's experience with Fiverr versus using a private, PR firm or something like that. And I see Jim smiling, but that's as well as content. A lot of folks know what they want to say, but they're not the content writers. And there's definitely a writing style for social media that's different than, say, even a website. So we see a lot of people's websites where, they just write what they think, and it doesn't follow the more standardized writing style, and it changes all the time. So I think is that what you're talking about, Tim?
Well, I mean, yeah, finding someone to help with the content and help, I want to send an email blast out to, and I'm just using DC as an example because cherry blossoms in that area is a huge thing.
Right.
February, it's probably a good time to start, hitting your clients for the upcoming Cherry Blossom Festival. What is it that needs to be, how do you craft an email with appropriate images to say, hey, in a few months is going to be cherry blossom time, and here are the best. And a lot of it is, I think a lot of us try to sell our stuff, and we provide value in the email and again, the cherry blossoms, I'm just saying, here are the 5 best hotels for, in Washington, DC, when you're going to come, when you're going to go to Washington, DC for the Cherry Blossom Festival. For Chicago, here are the best, 6 hotels that are downtown, or you want to go to opening day at Wrigley Field or Kaminsky Park. Here are the best hotels, near the stadium, or whatever it is, and don't sell your services. Just be in front of your clients and be passive at your sales.
Yeah.
So a virtual assistant or a company to help create the content or help create the images, or both. What I like out of what Tim had just said is virtual assistants. And I think this goes back to maybe 2 years ago when Bill Faith had, when he was talking quite a bit about virtual assistants. Last year I did a presentation with Sammy out of Orlando, and he uses a virtual assistant just to crunch numbers and to create spreadsheets for him to track either the utilization of his vehicles or the productivity of the staff. And maybe we could do a seminar on virtual assistants and how, they're only $6 or $7 an hour, but they're able to crank out, whether it's analytics or whether it's content for blogs, emails, newsletters, what have you, or if it's art, just to put information together for marketing. And maybe we could come up with just a smattering of reasons to use virtual assistants.
Yeah. Because there's some that you it's kind of interesting. We won't dive into it today, but there's some that you can actually communicate with and talk on the phone. There's some that you simply set up the projects, provide the instructions electronically, and off they go. So and that dictates the price, the type of work they're doing.
I mean, for me, I can tell you right now, I would love to have a virtual assistant. I have looked many times at hiring a virtual assistant.
Mhm.
And what stopped you? Why haven't you?
I don't know how to direct them. That's my biggest issue is I don't know how to direct them. I don't know how to communicate with them. I don't know, and I understand it's through email or through their portal or stuff like that, but I don't know,
Get the most bang for your buck.
yeah, I don't know how to direct, ultimately it's, I know how to train a chauffeur to drive a vehicle and how to do a trip and stuff like that. I don't know how to, because again, this is a lot of it in my mind is creative stuff. I'm not a very creative person. I'm goofy, but I'm not creative.
Oh, God.
Look at photos online. I wear deer antlers this time of year. But I just don't know how to direct them to get the most bang for my buck. And if I want to sit here and, I've looked at packages where it's, $500 for 40 hours worth of, or, for 40 hours worth of virtual assistant every month. That's great. I don't know how I would be able to use them for 40 hours, and how to get the efficiency out of that 40 hours. And, is it creating blog posts? Is it crunching numbers? I don't know if I would necessarily want the same task every month from the virtual assistant and stuff like that. That's my biggest issue is I want to know how to use the virtual assistant.
Well,
Yeah, so I think that's a great
maybe-
idea, something we could put together for February.
Yeah.
We do have a question in the chat box, which we do have some information on. They're asking, does anyone have any information on plate renewals? So my little blurb or my understanding of that is, yes, BACP has extended the renewals until January 31st. However, Secretary of State has not. So I'm not really sure what good that does, but Paula, if you have any other information to add to that.
So Tracy's right. The city is extending the livery renewals until January 30th. However, Illinois Secretary of State is not, which means that if you need a city plate, you want to be able to drive, you probably need to get both your livery license and your plate renewed. We've asked them multiple times if they could give us some assurance that we would not get stopped if we were, if it's January and we're still driving on a 2020 emblem with a 2021 plate. No one's answering me. So to me, I've asked 3 times. I think that means that they're not going to guarantee that you don't get, if you get stopped, that you're not going to have an issue. So unfortunately, the extension to January 30th, in my mind, and Tracy will jump in, it probably doesn't really help a whole lot, a number of you, if you plan to drive. But plate renewal will be open. Plate pickup is open until the 23rd, and then I think they close until the beginning of the year. Is that what I heard? Yeah, Jim's nodding his head. So at this, well, you have to get off of mute to talk. Stop. Unmute. Okay. Jim, unmute. I can't hear you. How about you unmute, Jim?
All right, sorry, I had like 3 things on the screen. Elston is open for this.
Yeah.
I will warn you, they only allow 2 people upstairs at a time. 3 people can wait inside at a time. Everybody else waits outside in line. So it's going to be cold out, dress warm.
Yeah.
They're not open to consumers. So if you need consumer license or plates, anything like that, they're not open for that until January. If you need a sticker for your consumer plates, you can go through an outside line there with your car. So you never have to get out of your car to get your sticker for consumer stuff. But for us to renew your plates, they are open for that.
So Guillermo, the best thing we can say is once you get your livery renewed, you can get your plate. You can also get your plate before you renew your livery. Like that, the city has said would be okay. You don't need the letter that we normally have to have before we go to Elston to get the plates. So I don't know if that saves you any time or not, but that's all we know on that right now. As we go along, they keep, things keep changing. And for those of you who are members, that would be optimal to stay and, read our communications, and anything else that comes up from the city, we'll definitely let you know if it changes. Did we answer your question, Guillermo?
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me, but yes, you did. Basically, I did renew my VACP, but it's just the plates.
Yes.
You know how they change every year, and I dropped by yesterday. It's completely closed, and I tried to do it online, and it didn't let me do it online. So
Yeah, there's no
just-
online for the plates. You have to go in person. Yeah.
so
Why were they
just,
closed yesterday?
I don't understand that either.
They were closed. Yeah, it's a,
Oh,
like,
Mondays.
not
Yeah, they close on
even-
Mondays, I think they're always closed on Monday.
They are.
I will put the phone number for upstairs there in Elston. Is it okay, Paula? In
Yes,
the
ahead.
group chat here. So call them before you go there just to make sure that they're open.
That would
Oh,
be,
perfect.
that
Thank
would be
you.
my suggestion too. Yeah. But Mondays
thank you.
generally close, guys.
During their busiest time. Must be nice.
You know, that happened when they did the, you know, when they were doing the real ID, they started closing on Mondays. Oh, some were already closed on Mondays and then they all of a sudden all closed on Mondays. But, okay. So I think I answered that. Okay.
All right, so if we don't have anything else, then Art, if you want to close the meeting or your next updates.
But first he has to take himself off of mute. Okay.
Yeah, my next update. What is my next update?
Just say
There's no
thank you.
first update.
Say thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming, joining us. You know, one thing that we didn't resolve anything on a takeaway, and I've seen a couple things come over through in the chat box, but it may be beneficial to put together a list of resources that maybe would be resources for the accounting, virtual, if anyone has anyone, would anybody be interested in that? If we just kind of share whatever resources we have, whether it's accounting, marketing material, anything that we think we can virtualize, share it, and maybe between now and the next meeting, people on the call will get a chance to dive into it a little bit. And maybe at that point, we can actually have an intelligent conversation about it.
Maybe about how to use them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what your feedback is, how it worked, did it work, did you try it? Anybody have a feeling or anything on that?
I think if it works for people and it's good vetted ones, I think so. I think that's important because, you know, you can make a lot of mistakes with the wrong people until you find the right one.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody has already used somebody and knows that they're good and do a good job, I think that's helpful to everybody because we've all gone through, you know, a couple accountants, a couple marketing people already that just didn't do the job for us.
Right.
Well, I think that there's going to be different needs in the accounting area than maybe we had in the past. I would have my accountant do what is it called? Compilations every 6 months, which you may need to have some more detailed financial reports quarterly or monthly, maybe combined with benchmarking that you can then present and go forward to banks. Because I know my conversations with my banks is, you know, they're looking at it and they're looking at your financials, and they're going to base it on your past performance, anything that they do going forward. But at the same time, in many cases, they're not sure how to rate us in different industries. They're not exactly sure, you know, how it's going to work going forward. They're going to look at, you know, somebody that has been profitable. A lot of us haven't been profitable. I mean, I had months where I was profitable, and I'm sure December's not going to be, but you know, as we move forward, you know, what are the criteria for the banks going to be? And anything that you're presenting to them on a financial basis is going to be more than QuickBook reports, I would think. At any rate, if anyone's interested, or if you guys do want to share resources, let's kind of look at a way to do it. And we'll go from there. At this point, I guess we can adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody want to second that?
It's not a
Second.
board meeting, bloody hell.
We're going to adjourn it. We're out of here.
Thank you.
All right. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Good seeing
Kevin.
everyone.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank
holidays,
you.
all.
Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.